Hey Daily Dosers, Chris here, once again coming to you, wrapping up our 2 weeks in Israel. It has been an amazing trip. I'm sitting out here in the middle of the night. We sent the group back. It's our last night. They're back in the hotel. They're packing. I'm here with my daughter who's helping me shoot this, my buddy Wayne, who's the best bodyguard in the world. And I'm sitting here thinking about this week in this city. So much hatred, so much animosity, so much fighting over who gets the top of the Dome of the Rock, or should it be the temple. Lebanon, Syria, Egypt, the borders around this place, people that are trying to kill the people in this place, the missiles that are lobbed constantly back and forth in the Gaza Strip. And this little place, Jerusalem, that is split into quarters, and you can feel the animosity as you move about. And it brings me back to a single story in John chapter 5. Where you walk in through a gate called the sheep gate, where the sheep would be brought in for sacrifice in the temple. And if you go to the left, you're in the temple. If you go to the right, you're at the pool of Bethesda. And the pool of Bethesda is where they would lay all the people that had some sort of physical challenge. See, in that day and age, if you had some sort of physical challenge, you couldn't go to the temple. You weren't part of the community. You were seen as unclean. And it said an invalid had been there, and he was there for 38 years. Now get this picture. For 38 years, he hears the worship coming 100 yards away from the temple. For 38 years, he can hear the praise and the celebrations and the festivities from the temple. But for 38 years, he has been told by his culture, you're rejected, you're broken, you're unclean. And Jesus on this day comes through the sheep gate, and he doesn't go to the temple. He goes to the pool of Bethesda, and he asks the man, would you like to be made well? And the guy says, well, of course I would. But see, it's the Sabbath day. You're not supposed to heal or even help in major ways on the Sabbath day. I know this is where religion has got it backwards. Jesus healed him and said, pick up your mat and go. And where does this man go? He heads straight for the temple. He doesn't go home to family and friends. He goes straight to the community, straight to the people of God, straight to give thanks. And who does he run into? Religious leaders. And watch what happens. John chapter 5, starting at verse 10. It simply says this. So the Jewish leaders said to the man who had become healed, it's the Sabbath. The law forbids you to carry your mat. But he replied, but the man who made me well said, pick up your mat and walk. So they asked him, who is this fellow who told you to pick up your mat and walk? The man who was healed had no idea who it was, because Jesus slipped away into the crowd that was there. And later Jesus found him at the temple and said to him, see, you are well again. Now stop sinning, or something worse may happen to you. And this man went away and told the Jewish leaders it was Jesus who made him well. So because Jesus was doing these things on the Sabbath, the Jewish leaders began to persecute him. In his defense, Jesus said to him, but my Father is always at his work to this very day, and I too am working. For this reason, they tried all the more to kill him, not only because he was breaking the Sabbath, but because he was even calling God his own Father and making himself equal with God. This strikes me in leaving this city, in leaving this most contested piece of ground on earth where there's so much animosity surrounding it. It strikes me how religion can get in the way of doing what's right, how observing the law can get in the way of actually loving people. For 38 years, these religious leaders had to know this man hasn't been to the temple. For 38 years, these spiritual leaders had to know this man was rejected, he was an outcast, and when they saw him finally walking, carrying his mat, they should have been the first to pick him up, put him on their shoulders, dance around and celebrate the magnificent work of God. But no, he broke a law. You're carrying a mat on the Sabbath. How dare you? And the guy's like, are you serious? I've just been healed miraculously. Who told you? Well, it was Jesus. And now they hate him even more. There's a lot of places we can take this, but North Coast or Daily Dosers, if you go to another church, can we be careful of not doing this? Can we be careful of not being caught up in being so religious, making sure we go to church, making sure that we have our life groups, making sure we have our Bible studies, making sure we have attendance, making sure that we're praying before meals, and we're not helping the needs that are right in front of us? Jesus went through the sheep gate that day, the gate where the sheep would be brought to the temple to be sacrificed. If he would have taken a left, he would have gone right in the temple courts. But on this day, he took a right. Does he know you shouldn't heal on the Sabbath? Well, he knows there's a law that says you can't work on the Sabbath, but he puts people ahead of the law. This is a guy that says, are you killing me? Are you kidding me? There's a man who's been invalid for 38 years. You tell me the right thing to do with the love of God. My Father is always at work, and so will I. Can I encourage you today, as daughters and sons of a God who is always at work loving people, may you and I always be at work loving people, and may our religiosity never take place of meeting the needs of others. That was the problem then. The religion in this city now, oh, there's a lot of religion in this city. Not a lot of love. The world needs love. The world needs sons and daughters that are about their Father's business.